All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving deep into something pretty essential, honestly.
Absolutely. Can't argue with that.
Stress management, folks.
Yeah, the never-ending quest.
Exactly. But this time, we've got a guide, like a real roadmap. We're going through the ultimate guide to stress management together.
It's not just tips and tricks. This one, it's a deep dive, which is why we're doing a deep dive on it. Really gets into the how and why of stress.
Which I think is super important.
Yeah.
We all know we need to manage stress, but how?
Right. What actually works? What's the science behind it? This book digs into all of that.
Love it. So chapter 1, it kind of sets the stage, right? We got to understand what we're dealing with before we can tackle it.
Exactly. It's like before you go fight a dragon, you got to know what kind of fire it breathes, right?
Okay, I like that analogy. So stress, the dragon, what's it like?
Well, the book makes this really cool point. Stress itself isn't bad. It's a natural response. Imagine, you're on a cliff edge, heart pounding, you're on high alert. That's stress keeping you safe.
But I'm not usually hanging off cliffs. My stress is more like emails piling up.
Exactly. And the problem is, in modern life, we're constantly on that metaphorical cliff edge. Deadlines, traffic, even just, the news cycle.
It's like our brains never get the all clear signal.
Right. So that short burst of stress that's meant to protect us, it becomes chronic.
Okay, so chronic stress, that's the real villain here. But how do we even know if we have it?
The book goes through a bunch of signs, but some of the big ones, think about your sleep, your energy levels, how easily you get irritated.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there.
And then physically, it can show up as headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, the list goes on.
So basically, if you're human in the 21st century, chances are you've got some level of chronic stress.
Pretty likely, which is why this book is so important.
Okay, so we've identified the enemy. Chronic stress, what's next?
Well, chapter 2 gets into one of the simplest but most powerful tools, deep breathing.
Okay, I gotta admit, when I saw that chapter, I was like, really? Breathing.
I know, right? It seems almost too simple. But the science behind it is fascinating. The book explains how deep breathing actually triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest part of your wiring.
So it's like literally telling your body to chill out.
Yeah, it's like flipping a switch. Slow, deep breaths. They lower your heart rate, your blood pressure, even those stress hormones that are coursing through you.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this is more than just, inhaling and exhaling.
Right. And there are specific techniques that the book walks you through.
Like what? Give me some examples.
So there's the 4-7-8 breathing, where you inhale for a count of 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. That long exhale is key. It really signals to your body that it's time to relax.
Okay, 4-7-8.
Got it. And then there's box breathing, which is more about creating a rhythm. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. It's almost like a mini meditation.
Both of those sound pretty doable, even if I'm in the middle of a crazy work day.
Exactly. And that's the point. These are tools you can use anywhere, anytime to just kind of hit the reset button on your stress response.
Love it. Okay. What else is in our stress-busting arsenal?
Well, chapter 3 tackles something that honestly I think a lot of us struggle with. Our own thoughts.
Yep, guilty as charged. I'm the queen of negative self-talk.
But the book makes this really powerful point. Our thoughts literally shape our reality. Like if we're constantly telling ourselves we can't do something or we're not good enough.
We're basically setting ourselves up for failure.
Exactly, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So how do we break out of that cycle?
Well, the book talks about mindfulness, which is all about becoming aware of those negative thought patterns without judgment.
So not beating myself up for having negative thoughts, just noticing them.
Right. And then you can start to challenge them. Are those thoughts really true? Is there another way to look at the situation?
Okay, that makes sense. But what about when it's not just thoughts? It's like a whole mood. Feeling overwhelmed or anxious.
The book has some great techniques for that too. One that really stood out to me was gratitude.
Gratitude. Like being thankful for things.
Exactly. It sounds cheesy, I know, but it's incredibly powerful because when you shift your focus to what's good in your life, even if it's just small things,
it kind of changes your perspective.
Yeah, it pulls you out of that negative spiral and reminds you that even when things are tough, there's still good stuff to be found.
I like that. Okay, so we've got deep breathing and gratitude in our toolkit. What else?
Well, chapter 3 also goes into 2 techniques that I think are really interesting. Affirmations and visualization.
Okay, break those down for me.
Affirmations are basically positive statements that you repeat to yourself, either out loud or silently.
Like, I am strong, or I can handle this.
Exactly. And the idea is by repeating these phrases, you're kind of reprogramming your subconscious mind.
It's like replacing those negative tapes with something more empowering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's visualization, which is basically creating a mental movie of yourself achieving a desired outcome.
So like athletes imagining themselves winning the race.
Right. But you can use it for anything. A big presentation at work, a difficult conversation you need to have.
It's like mental rehearsal for success.
Exactly. And the book makes the point that when you visualize something vividly, your brain actually starts to create the neural pathways that support that outcome.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we're getting a pretty full toolbox here. What's next?
Well, chapter 4 tackles something that's near and dear to many of our hearts. Time management.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. My to-do list is basically a monster that lives under my desk.
But the book reframes it in a really interesting way. It's not about doing more. It's about making conscious choices.
Aligning your actions with what truly matters.
Exactly. And a big part of that is recognizing that not everything is equally urgent.
Oh, yeah. I have a problem with that. I try to do everything at once.
But the book encourages us to prioritize. What are the tasks that are truly essential? What can be delegated? What can wait?
Okay, that makes sense. But even when I do prioritize, I get so easily distracted.
That's where boundaries come in. The book talks about minimizing distractions, turning off notifications, setting aside specific blocks of time for focused work.
So I'm not constantly switching between tasks, getting nothing done.
Right. And it also emphasizes the importance of scheduling and self-care.
Wait, self-care? Like massages and bubble baths?
It can be, but it's really anything that helps you recharge and de-stress. Reading, spending time in nature, listening to music.
The book actually says that rest isn't the enemy of productivity, it's essential for it.
Which is something I think a lot of us need to hear. We live in a culture of hustle and grind, but if we're constantly pushing, we eventually burn out.
Okay, so time management is about being intentional with our time and energy and recognizing that self-care is part of the equation. I can get behind that. What's next?
Well, chapter 5 delves into something that honestly we often overlook, healthy habits.
Oh, yeah. The basics.
But they're so important because our physical health has a huge impact on our mental and emotional well-being.
So this is where we talk about, like, eating our vegetables and getting enough sleep.
It's more than that, but those are definitely key components. The book emphasizes exercise, and not just for physical fitness.
But for stress management.
Right. Because exercise releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that boost your mood and reduce stress.
Makes sense. Okay, what about sleep?
The book is adamant. Sleep is not optional. It's essential for our physical and mental health.
But I always feel like I don't have enough time to sleep.
I know, it's a common struggle. But the book makes a really important point. Lack of sleep actually makes us less productive.
So I'm actually doing myself a disservice by skimping on sleep.
Exactly. When we're sleep deprived, our thinking becomes foggy, we make bad decisions, and we're more likely to get stressed out.
Okay, I'm convinced. Sleep is a priority. What about diet? Is this where you talk about kale, smoothies, and all that?
It's not about being restrictive. It's about making conscious choices to nourish your body. The book emphasizes whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean protein.
Okay, so the stuff we know is good for us.
Exactly. And the point is, when you fuel your body with the right nutrients, you have more energy, you think more clearly, and you're better equipped to handle stress.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Understanding stress, deep breathing, the power of our thoughts, time management, and healthy habits. What else is there?
Well, chapter 6 gets into something that I think is becoming more and more mainstream. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Isn't that just another word for meditation?
It can involve meditation, but it's really more about being present in each moment.
So like not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Exactly. It's about paying attention to what's happening right now without judgment.
Okay, but how do you actually do that?
The book has some great practical examples, like when you're eating, really noticing the taste, the texture, the smell of the food, or when you're talking to someone, really listening to what they're saying, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
So it's like being fully engaged in whatever you're doing, even if it's something mundane.
Right. And the book emphasizes that mindfulness is a skill. It takes practice.
So I'm not going to become a Zen master overnight.
Probably not. But even small moments of mindfulness throughout your day can make a big difference in how you experience stress.
I like that. Okay, we're getting toward the end here. What are the last few chapters about?
Well, chapter 7 talks about the importance of having a strong support system.
So like friends and family.
Exactly, because we're not meant to go through life alone. Having people we can rely on, who listen without judgment, who offer encouragement and support.
Makes a huge difference.
Right. The book talks about how sharing our burdens makes them lighter and how having different perspectives can help us make better decisions.
Okay, I can definitely see that. What about chapter 8?
That one is all about communication.
Communication, like talking to people.
It's more than just talking. It's about communicating effectively in a way that reduces stress and strengthens relationships.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, the book starts with active listening, which is really about hearing and understanding the other person's point of view.
So not just waiting for my turn to talk.
Right. It's about being present, asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what you've heard to make sure you understand.
That makes sense. But what about when I need to express my own feelings or needs?
The book talks about using I statements, which is a way of expressing yourself assertively without blaming the other person.
So instead of saying, you always do this, I'd say, I feel frustrated when this happens.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your feelings and needs and communicating them in a clear and respectful way.
Okay, I can see how that would be less likely to start an argument. What else is in chapter 8?
The book also talks about emotional intelligence, which is basically the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and to empathize with others.
That sounds pretty complex.
It can be, but it's a skill that can be developed, and it's incredibly valuable in relationships, both personal and professional.
So, better communication, less stress. Makes sense. What about chapter 9? Are we almost done?
Almost. Chapter 9 is like a bonus round. It's all about relaxation techniques.
Okay, so this is where we get into the massages and bubble baths.
It can be, but it's really about finding what works for you. The book covers a wide range of techniques, from meditation to visualization to progressive muscle relaxation.
So there's something for everyone.
Right. And the point is, having a toolkit of relaxation techniques that you can draw on when you're feeling stressed can make a huge difference.
It's like having a first aid kit for your mind.
Exactly. And the book encourages you to experiment and find what resonates with you. Maybe you love yoga, or maybe you prefer listening to calming music.
It's about finding what helps you unwind and recharge.
And then the final chapter, chapter 10, it's all about putting it all together.
Creating that stress-free blueprint we talked about at the beginning.
Right. It walks you through the process of assessing your stress levels, identifying your triggers, and then choosing the techniques that are most effective for you.
So it's like creating a personalized stress management plan.
Exactly. And it emphasizes that this is a journey, not a destination. There's no magic bullet for eliminating stress.
But we can learn to manage it, to build resilience, and to create a life that's more balanced and fulfilling.
And that's what this book is all about.
All right, so we've got a lot to digest here, folks. We've covered the basics of stress management, from understanding the enemy to building our toolkit of techniques. We'll be back after a quick break to dive even deeper into some of those relaxation techniques and to talk about how to put it all together to create your own stress-free blueprint.
It's amazing, right, how much power we have over our own stress levels when we actually, understand the mechanisms.
Right. Like, it's not magic, it's science. And speaking of science, we've still got that bonus chapter to cover.
Yeah.
The one with all those extra relaxation techniques.
Oh, yes. The good stuff.
But before we get there, I think a quick recap is in order. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive so far.
We have. We started with the basics, like what is stress? It's that cliff edge feeling. It's a natural response meant to keep us safe, but
Our modern world kind of keeps that alarm bell ringing 24/7.
Exactly. It's like we're stuck in fight or flight mode all the time, which is where chronic stress comes in.
Not good. Not good at all. But then we talked about some amazing tools to combat that. Deep breathing, how it's not just about like air, it's about hacking your nervous system.
Yeah, activating that rest and digest response. So simple, but so effective. Remember those techniques we talked about? The 4-7-8 breathing?
And box breathing.
Yeah.
I've actually been trying those throughout the day. Gotta say, I feel a difference.
See? It works. And then, of course, we got into the power of our thoughts, how they really do shape our reality.
Yeah, that was a big one for me. I'm definitely prone to the negative self-talk spiral.
Yeah.
But we talked about mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
Noticing those thoughts without judgment.
Exactly. And then challenging them. Are they really true? What's the evidence? And then gratitude.
Oh yeah, gratitude. That one seemed kind of cheesy at first, but honestly, just taking a minute to appreciate the good things.
It really shifts your perspective.
It does. And then we talked about those more proactive techniques, affirmations and visualization, like rewriting those mental scripts.
Powerful stuff. And then time management. Ugh, always a struggle.
Always. But the book reframed it so well. It's not about doing more. It's about being intentional. Prioritizing, setting boundaries.
And scheduling and self-care, that was a key takeaway for me. Rest is not the enemy of productivity.
It's an investment. And then those foundational healthy habits, exercise, sleep, good nutrition.
Fueling your body to fuel your mind.
Exactly. And then mindfulness, being present, savoring the moment, even the small things. It's a practice for sure.
But a worthwhile one. And then remembering that we're not in this alone. Having a strong support system, people we can trust.
Makes all the difference. And then communication. Not just talking, but really communicating effectively, actively listening, expressing ourselves assertively.
Using those I statements.
Right. And that whole concept of emotional intelligence, understanding and managing our own emotions and empathizing with others.
So much good stuff in there.
And that brings us to the bonus round. The chapter packed with even more relaxation techniques. Are you ready for this?
I'm excited. It's like opening a treasure chest of tools for our well-being.
Okay, let's dive in. The book starts with, I guess, the classic meditation.
Yeah, quieting the mind, finding that stillness within. There are so many different types of meditation out there.
It can feel overwhelming, but the book encourages you to experiment. Find what resonates with you. Maybe it's guided meditation. Maybe it's just sitting in silence, focusing on your breath.
Whatever works. And then there's visualization.
Oh yeah, that one's cool. Creating those calming mental images. Like imagine yourself on a beach, listening to the waves.
Or in a forest surrounded by trees. It's like a mini mental vacation.
And it can be super effective for reducing stress. Your body actually responds to those images as if they were real.
Isn't that wild? And then there's progressive muscle relaxation, which is more about the physical release of tension.
Yeah, that one's interesting. You basically go through each muscle group in your body, tensing and then releasing.
It's amazing how much tension we hold without even realizing it.
I know, right? And then, of course, we have our trusty deep breathing, always a good one.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of relaxation techniques. You can use it anywhere, anytime.
And then the book talks about music therapy, harnessing the power of sound to soothe your soul.
Oh yeah, music is amazing for that. Experiment with different genres, find what works for you. Maybe it's classical music, nature sounds, binaural beats.
Whatever helps you feel calm and centered. And then there's aromatherapy, using essential oils to create a calming atmosphere.
Lavender, chamomile, eucalyptus. So many great options. Essential oils can have a real impact on our mood and nervous system.
Yeah, they can be surprisingly powerful. And then last but not least, the book talks about connecting with nature.
Ah, nature. The ultimate healer.
Right. Just being in nature, taking a walk in the park, listening to the birds. It's like hitting a reset button.
It really helps ground us, reminds us of the bigger picture, and just kind of washes away the stress.
So the takeaway here is there are so many different ways to relax and recharge. The key is to find what works for you.
Build your own personal de-stress toolkit. Experiment, have fun with it, and don't be afraid to try new things.
Wow. So we've really gone deep into this whole stress management thing, haven't we?
We have. It's like from feeling totally overwhelmed to like, okay, I actually have some tools now.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest takeaway here, right? It's not about magically eliminating stress. Life's can be stressful sometimes. It's about
having a plan, having those go-to techniques when things start to feel, out of control.
Yeah. Like out of everything we've talked about today, what really clicked for you? What are you going to try out?
Honestly, I think that whole stress-free blueprint idea from the last chapter is so powerful.
The personalized plan.
Yeah. Because we're all different, right? What stresses me out might not even faze you. So figuring out what your triggers are.
And then matching those triggers with the techniques that actually work for you.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be like this huge overhaul of your life. It can be small things. Like I'm definitely committing to 5 minutes of deep breathing every morning.
I love that. Small changes, consistency.
Right. It's like building a muscle. The more you practice those stress-reducing habits, the stronger you get.
And then even when those inevitable curveballs come, you're better equipped to handle them.
You bounce back quicker. You don't get knocked down as easily.
Resilience. That's the ultimate goal, right?
Absolutely. And that's what this whole deep dive into the ultimate guide to stress management has been all about. Giving you the tools and the knowledge to create a more resilient, peaceful, and joyful life.
Well said. And on that note, folks, it's time for us to wrap up. But remember, this conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep those healthy habits going.
And be kind to yourself. Stress management is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking those small steps towards a more balanced and fulfilling life. Until next time.